All right, what's up, guys? This is Ryan from Elevate Security back with another video. And now, one video that I made recently on this channel that has really blown up and been a quite popular video was, where to start for OSCP. But I know a number of our viewers are more so even new to security, so they're not necessarily looking for OSCP at the moment. They're looking for where to get started in security if they're interested in this field. And I know I definitely want to work with a number of you guys, help you guys out that are in that camp, that you want to get into security, or maybe you're considering dipping your toes in the water a bit, but you don't really know where to get started. So if that sounds like you, this video is definitely for you. And for the people that are more experienced, sometimes it always helps to go back and review certain things to really make sure that you are able to access that information, because the fundamentals is something you can always go back to. Even myself, reminding myself of these certain fundamentals, it can help in many ways down the line. So yeah, this is going to be a fundamentals type video, or if you're new to security, where do you start, right? So the very first thing that I'll say to this question is the term security is extremely broad. I mean, if you look at it at the most macro level, right, the most distant level, security could mean physical security, right? Could be like being a security guard. Then if you narrow that down, right, obviously we're talking about information security. So if you narrow it down to the term information security, even that is extremely broad, right? There's a number of different career paths that fall within the camp of information security, right? Now, a lot of people from the outside, when they hear security, they think of, hackers maybe, or maybe they think of cyber defense, trying to hunt down hackers, maybe forensics, something like that, right? But, all of these fall into the larger bubble of information security. Specifically, what I teach on this channel is, offensive security, maybe like web app pen testing, or pen testing, server pen testing, a little bit of red teaming, stuff like that. The offensive side, where we're hands-on with the application on the technical side, trying to hack in, basically going at these applications and these servers from the lens of an attacker, right? The same way an attacker would. Now, a lot of people, I think that's one of the most well-known areas, but there's a number of other things that fall under the security umbrella, information security. You can be on the defensive side, like cyber defense. Maybe you are just monitoring the network for traffic that seems malicious and identifying any potential data breaches, stuff like that. Maybe you're on the blue team and you're trying to detect the red team and stuff like that. Maybe you are working with to remediate findings from the offensive side. And you're tracking things to remediation. Maybe you are like a forensics guy and you are looking at malware. Maybe you're an exploit developer, right? You're trying to develop new exploits and stuff like that, and sort of doing it from more of the perspective of a security researcher. And another thing is maybe you are on the policy side, right? So many people that I work with and have worked with, they're under the umbrella of security, but they don't really do any technical security work whatsoever. They're more on the policy side, like ensuring that the systems are security compliant and sort of, a lot of spreadsheet type of work, right? And making sure that everything is compliant and stuff like that. Honestly, that's not my area, as you might be able to tell. I'm not too well versed in all of that, but yeah, there's the whole security, like risk analysis side of it too, where it's purely a policy thing and you're trying to give things a risk rating and just based off the criticality of the application and a number of predefined parameters. But I am not here to get into any of those. As you know, we focus on the offensive side of security. So if you're interested in any of these other areas, I'll just tell you right now, I'm not going to be the best source for that. But if you are interested in offensive security, then I'll tell you two things, right? One thing I'll tell you is that, you've come to the right place. That's the kind of content that we put out on this channel. And the second thing I'll tell you is you are entering a field where there is a very high demand for someone like you, yet a very low supply of people that are qualified. So just know that you have a really good chance. If you apply yourself and you are consistent about it, there's definitely jobs out there waiting for you, even in the tough times that we are faced with right now. I'll just say the field of offensive security has been stronger than ever. I've known a number of people, myself included actually, that changed jobs in the last few months, even with everything going on, because the demand is just there. So yeah, without further ado, I'm going to get into now, assuming the rest of this video will be assuming that you want to go down the path of offensive security. Where do you start? What things do you need to know? What's a decent roadmap for that, right? So yeah, without further ado, we'll get right into that. So I'm going to go ahead and change my screen view over here because I'm going to recommend a few books here in a second. But the first thing I'm going to say to do before I give book recommendations is I'm going to say learn basic networking, right? So learn how networks work, learn TCP and UDP and the differences between them. We'll learn about the three-way handshake, okay? TCP, UDP, and then specifically when it comes to TCP, learn about the three-way handshake and how that, how that actually looks, right? Just study up on it. You can Google that online. You don't need to buy any books for that. Literally just doing some research, maybe watch some YouTube videos on that. And then learn basic subnetting. That's another thing. You just Google or type into YouTube subnetting, and I'm sure you can find really good videos that'll walk you through how to do that. Those two things are like really important prerequisites, right? When we talk about being hackers, when we talk about being attackers, it's a two-part thing, right? First, you need to know how things operate normally because you're using the infrastructure that's already there. Right? Like when I scan a box, I'm scanning the IP address, so I'm going to need to know about IP addresses and networks and what has access to what network, what's on a separate network based off the IP address, the subnet, all of that. Not only do I have to understand the underlying technology, I also have to be able to hack the underlying technology, right? So it's a two-step process. You got to understand how web applications work before you can try and break them, you know what I mean? That's another example. You got to understand how protocols work before you try to hack them. And yeah, so that's what I would say about that. So you need some prerequisite knowledge. One of that is the prerequisite knowledge of networking. TCP, UDP, subnetting. After that, I would say you need to learn some basic Linux. As attackers, we're often working in a Linux environment. Now, it's not an absolute requirement, but most likely you're going to be, even if you're not working in a Linux environment, you're going to be touching Linux many, many times. It's going to be essential that you understand the basics. And that's why I have some book recommendations here. Now, before I go into that, I will say I'm not the biggest fan of books when it comes to security just because things are moving so fast. I've given a few book recommendations in one of the previous videos. Maybe I'll link it in the cards if I can remember to do that. But I didn't really go through too many. A lot of what I learn is hands-on. I believe hands-on is the best way to learn in this field for sure, and in general. But when it comes to something that has been so consistent and hasn't changed in so long, like the Linux command line, right? That's when I would say, okay, check out a book, right? This is the book that I first learned on, the Linux command line. Now, there's a new second edition out. I think I have the first edition because I definitely got this book. I got this book back in like 2015, I believe, but there's a new edition out. So I would recommend this one. It's really comprehensive. It's really a really good introduction. It'll go through all kinds of things, right? Like learning, I'll zoom in a bit, learning all about the shell, the configuration environment, some tools, how to write your own scripts, all that, right? It'll cover everything you need to know. Now, if you're looking for a more targeted to security approach, that's why I added this recommendation here. I actually read a lot of this book myself as well. This is Linux Basics for Hackers. This is one I would definitely recommend. This one's pretty new as well. Came out in 2018. Definitely all relevant information still. And here's the sort of things it covers. This one's a little bit more targeted towards security. So whichever one you want to go with, you can't go wrong with either one. So check out one of those. Even if you already know Linux, you want to brush up a bit maybe, I would recommend either one of these books. Now, with that out of the way, once you've learned your basic Linux, what I would say is start, dipping your toes in the vulnerable web apps. And let me go back to that view. With the vulnerable web apps, a few recommendations here, right? Juice Shop, I've heard a lot of good things about. I think that's probably the one I would recommend, even though I haven't done it myself. I've heard a lot about it. It's based in JavaScript, I believe Node.js, so it's really relevant for today, right? Really up to date, I'd say. I personally did WebGoat, but I wouldn't recommend it. But you can do any of these. It really doesn't matter. But yeah, go with Juice Shop or something. And I would focus on, because they're going to teach you in these vulnerable web apps, they're going to walk you through. They're going to teach you how to actually exploit these in a nice practice environment where there's explanations and everything. Great way to get started in security if you don't have a lot of prior knowledge. So you just go through one of these. Just pick one. Go through one of them. They're going to teach you a whole slew of various web app vulnerabilities, how to exploit them, all of that. Now, what I will say with this is, go ahead and do them all if you want to do them all. Like, do all the different vulnerabilities in them, right? But focus on OWASP top 10. Let's Google that, right? Because maybe you're not too familiar with the term OWASP top 10. Well, OWASP is basically the Open Web Application Security, something I can't remember. But they basically are, the foundation, right? They're focused on web app vulnerabilities. We'll leave it at that, right? And they have categorized the web application security risk into a top 10 list. They do this every so often. And here's the top 10 here, right? Injection-based ones could be SQL injection, LDAP, whatever, right? Any kind of injection vulnerability. Broken authentication, any flaws with the authentication of a web application, right? Serving up sensitive data. XXE, which we've covered on this channel, right? Any kind of broken access control, misconfiguration, cross-site scripting. Insecure deserialization, I cover that one as well. Using components with known vulnerabilities, like maybe a JS library that has some known vulnerabilities they're using. And insufficient logging monitoring, maybe they're not logging those brute force login attempts and stuff like that, right? Focus on these. These are the ones that are the most lucrative, the most prevalent, the most relevant, right? You want to do the 80-20 principle, right? What is 20% of the work that will get you 80% of the results? That would be this right here, the top 10. So focus on these when you're doing your vulnerable web app like Juice Shop or whatever you choose, right? So we'll leave it at that. Now, moving along, the next thing I would say, once you've done that, you're ready to, congratulations, by the way, and now you are ready to start getting into those CTFs. I would recommend to start with CTFs that have write-ups to them. So by CTFs, it could be something like Hack the Box, which I do all the time. All the retired boxes have write-ups. So you can just look up the answers in the beginning. You're not going to really know how to do things, chances are. So you can just look it up to your heart's content, and then you try to wean yourself off the write-ups and do things on your own eventually. Now, you don't have to use Hack the Box. You could use something like VulnHub. Download a box off there and just Google the box name and write-up, and you can find someone's write-up of how they exploited it, and you just follow along. Or try it yourself and consult with the write-up when you're stuck. A great way to ease your way into this stuff, and as you get better and better, you can eventually do it without write-ups, right? And that's the step you're at that point. You can also do another site like Try Hack Me or something. That's probably a similar thing. Or what is it? Over the Wire. Yeah, Over the Wire. That's another one. So once you've done that, then the rest just goes down into the nitty-gritty stuff, right? Learn recon, right? You'll learn this stuff along the way with the CTFs, right? But this is the last thing I want to close out with, Learn recon, learn the common ports. Once again, we have another video that I covered on, we had several. It spanned several videos, just going over the most common ports, what to do when you see port X, Y, and Z, how to enumerate them, right? That's the next step. How do you enumerate the common ports? Learn that for each port. what are some commands that I can run through Nmap or whatever tool to get further information out of it, to further enumerate it, as we say as attackers, right? Once you've learned the recon and enumeration side of things, learn how to exploit stuff with Metasploit, right? Just doing the automated exploits is fine. Don't worry about being called a script kiddie. We all start somewhere, right? So learn how to do automated exploits. Just like getting a feel for, getting these shells to begin with, right? And then after that, the last thing is learn how to then run manual exploits, right? Maybe grabbing stuff off Searchsploit or some ones from the internet like GitHub and stuff like that. Just be careful when you grab those manual exploits that you are replacing the shell code with your own, so that you're not accidentally giving the attackers access to your system, right? Hacking yourself essentially. But yeah, we'll just close it out with that. I think that would be a great roadmap going down the line to really start getting some exposure, getting some experience in this space. Honestly, if you do all of those things, you are way above the pack. Very few people that even apply to these jobs have any kind of technical experience like I just described to you. I'm being serious. Remember, I said there's a shortage of qualified people in this space. Honestly, if you do everything that I told you to do in this video, you would be above, I would say, like 80, 90, like 80% of the people that apply for these jobs. I could confidently say that. But yeah, let me know if there's any questions down in the comment section below. If you've been enjoying this content so far, please feel free to subscribe. Hit me with the like button, and it helps out with the algorithms and lets me know that you guys are enjoying this type of content. And yeah, I will see you guys in the next video. Remember, tomorrow, 10 to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time will be the live hacking. So check out that tomorrow if you feel so inclined. I will see you guys in the next video.